What's good on YouTube? It's Smart Creatives with yet another tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be on layer styles in Photoshop. Due to the length of the video, we have broken it into parts, and this is the first part of layer styles in Photoshop. Without wasting much time, let's get into the video. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop CC 2018, and I'm just going to create a new sheet. So let's go to File, click on New, and alright, let's choose our document. I'm just going to choose randomly, so A4, and then I'll just choose a landscape format from the orientation. I'm just going to rename it as Layer Styles. Alright, so I'm just going to click on Create. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop. Alright, now layer styles are, let me just put it basic, or let me say styles we apply to any object in Photoshop. Being it a picture, text, shape, whatever you have, you can apply layer styles to them. Now I'm just going to insert a shape, so let's go into the tools and then let's choose a rectangle. Now here we have a rectangle. Okay. Alright, so here we have our rectangle, and when we come to the layers part, this side of the screen, we have rectangle. When we come down, we see FX. Now this FX is the layer styles. When you click on it, you can see the list of the layer styles we have in there, such as the blending option, the bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, and then the rest of it. Alright, when we come to the top part 2, we're supposed to have styles up here, but we can't see it here. Let's check here. When you come up here to the menu bar, when you click on window, then let's go through these options. Alright, let's check. Okay, there we have it, styles, and the properties. You have styles. Alright, let's click on it. Now once you click on it, you have the styles in there. Let me just drag this side. Alright, so these are the styles we have. These are like kind of like already made styles or default styles we have in Photoshop, which you can apply to either your text, your shape. Now they are not really great. There's the first one. Just click on them and then they apply onto your shape, just like that. Alright, depending on what exactly you want to do, you can get them and then use them in your work. Yeah, it depends on your creativity level. Alright, so you click on this settings in here. Let's say you want to load more of the layer styles in there. You click on this setting, we have this part. Alright, just click on it, and then when you come down, we have abstract styles, buttons, dotted stroke. Now from this part down to web styles are all styles which you can apply. So let's say we want to add textures. I'll just click on it, and now we have this option here, replace current styles with the styles from textures. Now when I click on OK, Adobe Photoshop is going to replace this particular textures. It's going to replace, these styles with textures. So when we are going to, it's going to clear off these ones and then replace them with what? With textures. But we don't want to achieve something like that. We want to add these textures to the styles. So instead of clicking on OK, you rather click on Append, and that adds the textures to the styles. So when I click on Append, now we have the textures in here. Some of these you can even use them as your background. And this one like this looks very cool. You can use it for an effect. Alright, so that is the layer styles in there. Now when we come down to the shape layer, we can see we have the shape. Before, this was a shape. Before, this was a shape, the shape layer without anything. And then after applying the layer styles, This is now the shape layer. Now we can see down here, depending on the layer style or the style that you applied to the shape, what the effects that you are going to get. So for this rectangle, or for this particular style we gave to the shape, which is this one, it has gradient overlay and then pattern overlay. So let's say we want to edit them. So to edit them, you can simply double click on this FX we see here at the side of the layer. Just double click on it, or I can also click on FX and then just go directly into any of them in here. So we have the gradient overlay and then pattern overlay. So you can see the two of them being checked. That means gradient overlay and then pattern overlay are being used in this particular style. Alright, so let's double click on the FX, and that brings us into the style, and we can see them here, the two styles that were used in this particular style. So the gradient overlay, on the other hand, this is a gradient. We have this particular gradient, and the blending mode for the gradient overlay has been set to overlay, just as the name implies, gradient overlay. So we have it overlay for the blend mode. Let's see, if you change it to normal, that's what happens. If we change it to dissolve, when I drag the opacity, this is what happens when I change it to dissolve. When I drag down opacity. Alright, and then when I take it to darken, that's what happens. Alright, so I think the blend mode suitable for this particular style is overlay. You can go through the blend modes, different blend modes, and then you will see what will happen to your design. Alright, or to the shape. And then when we come down, we have the style. Now it's gradient, so we have options for it, how you want the gradient. Is it in a linear form, in a radial form? This way, we'll set it to normal. This is a radial form, that gives us a circular option. We have angle, and then we have reflected, and then alright, we have diamond also. So based on your preference, what you want. And also we have the angle. The angle, on the other hand, controls the angle, just like that. So you can take it up. Default is 90 degrees. You can also scale it up that way. Alright, and by default is 100. Okay, so that is a gradient overlay. When we turn it off, this is a pattern. Now when you click on it, we have different patterns in here. You can choose any pattern you want. Alright, now if you want to load more patterns as well, you can also click on this settings and you can go through these ones. So let's say you want grayscale paper, just click on it, and as usual, you don't click on OK, but rather append if you want to add it to it. If you want to replace the current ones with the grayscale paper, then you click on OK. But I want to add it to this, so I'll click on append, and now I have it in here. So you can choose any style you want or any texture you want for the design. Alright, now that is just you trying to customize the style that you've chosen. So anytime you choose a particular style, you can always go and then customize them by simply double clicking on the FX, and then you just go through them, the gradient part, and then you go through the pattern overlay. Now that is choosing from this side. Now what if I want to create everything from scratch? Alright, now let me delete this particular shape, and then let's get our text, and I'm going to write layers styles black. Okay, in fact, let me just make it caps. Alright, now I have my text here, layer styles. Okay, so now I want to apply my styles but from scratch. So how do I do that? Now, instead of choosing from here, you can always go through and then choose from these styles. You can just click on it, and if you want to load more, you can always do that by clicking on the setting over there and then choose the one. This one, for instance, looks cool and you can use it in your design. And when you come to the layer style, you come to the text, you will see the options that were used. Stroke was used, color overlay was used, gradient overlay as well, and including drop shadow. So these were the effects that were used. If you want to delete the style that you've applied to the text, you can simply put your pointer on the FX and then just drag it down into this bin. Drop and the style will be deleted. Now let's apply layer styles manually and then let's see what we have in the layer style. Now, like I said, we are breaking this video into parts so that it doesn't become a long video. So we are just going to just apply it manually. So let's come to the layer styles and double click, or you can simply click on FX. So when you double click on the layer style, this is what we have. So let's click on the FX and then let's click on show all effects. So we only have the gradient overlay and then the pattern overlay, but then if you want to see all your effects in there, because these are not the only effects we have under layer style, we have a lot more. So we just come down to FX, click, and then click on show all effects. Now these are the effects we have, and we'll be taking our time to go through each and every one of them, but just not in this video. So for instance, I want to apply, let's say, an outline onto this particular text. I can simply come to layer styles and choose stroke over here. Now when you are choosing the option, don't click on this particular box in there to just check it, because if you do that, you only check it but then you don't get the settings to work on stroke, unless of course you click on stroke itself. So you click on the text but don't just click on the box over there to check it. If you check it, you wouldn't have the option, but when you click on the text stroke, you would have the option for stroke. Now stroke is simply an outline, so just having an outline. Alright, having an outline around this particular text. So to have an outline surrounding the text, that is stroke. Now when it comes to stroke, this is a size and that's a color. So let's change the color to, let's see, red, and then the size, increase it. Now you see when you increase the size, it kind of like covers the inside of the text, so it's covering the fill of the text. Now it's simply because the position of the stroke has been set to inside. So instead you can click on it and choose outside, and now when you drag, it goes outside. You can also click and we have center, so that way it fills both the fill and then outside, which depending on what you want, yeah, you can also use that. Okay, so I usually prefer the outside because it's way cooler. All right, and then here we have the blending mode for it. You can use dissolve, and then you can just take down opacity. Anytime you use dissolve, you take down opacity, you begin to see the effect it has. So I increase it, kind of like makes it transparent, but then it uses pixels in making the object transparent. That's dissolve. Alright, so I'm just going to set it to normal, and then the opacity to 100, and take it down a little. Alright, so when we come down here, this is a color, and you can specify any color you want. So I chose red for this. When we come to the fill type, we have gradient, we have pattern, and we have color. Now the color is simply what we just chose. In case you want to apply the same gradient but to the text, you can click on gradient, and you can see the gradient color. So when you put your pointer, keep dragging, it controls the position of the gradient. Now when you come to this side, this is a gradient. You can click and double click on this. You can choose the color you want for that part. Yeah, I love red. Double click on this and you can also choose the color you want for it. Say something orange like that, lime orange. Alright, so click on it and then you can click on OK and you have it here. You can always drag to control the gradient the way you want it to be. Alright, when you come to the style, we also have radial, that's circular. In case you don't see it, you can try using the scale as well. We also have angle, and then yeah, the rest of the options, shape based, something like that. You can always increase the size. Now let's increase the size of the stroke. This is what sunburst looks like. Alright, so you can basically choose any option, even the angle. You can choose the angle. You can also try scaling things up and moving stuff on your own, and that is it with the stroke part. So let's say I have added stroke and now I want to add a shadow to this particular thing. Now I just come down here, we have drop shadow, so I'll just click on the drop shadow and that adds a shadow beneath the shape like that, or the text. Alright, so these ones are the options we have for the drop shadow. Now when we look in here, we have the blend mode for the shadow, and with the shadow it's always on multiply, but you can always style up, so you can change the shadow. Usually shadows are meant to be black, but you can always change the color for as usual preference. So sometimes you just need to break rules to paint something. You don't break rules, you don't become more creative. Yes. Alright, and this is the opacity. You can control the opacity as well from this part. Alright. Okay, and then we also have the distance, and with the distance you can control the distance by dragging these, or you can come and then just drag on to have it there. Alright, and then we also have the spread. You can also spread the shadow. We also have the size of the shadow. It feathers it and it makes it soft. Alright, now when we come down here, we have the quality and then we have contour. So this is noise that makes it kind of pixelated with, I don't know, transparency with pixels, this kind of effect, I don't know what to call it. Alright, but that's noise. It's called noise. Yes, usually get them on pictures and stuff. Alright, and then we have contour. With the contour, we have contour presets, which when you click gives us this kind of effect for the shadow. So you can choose any one you want. So if this is what you want, just select it, and that is that. After choosing, let's say something like this, you can also make it noisy. Alright, set it to 0. Okay, so that is it with the drop shadow. So you can see now we applied stroke and then we applied drop shadow. Now when we come down to the layer style, we can now see we have stroke and then drop shadow. So if I should click on OK and then come to the styles, we now have it there, stroke and then drop shadow. So if I want to turn off the stroke so I can have only the text in there, I can just click on stroke on this particular I button. That hides the stroke style, and we have our text. Let's change the color of the text to white, and we have something like this. Let's change it to this color. So we have something like that. We turn on the stroke and you have it there. With the drop shadow as well, you can also turn it on and off. Alright, so you can always go through and then add as many as you want. And that is it for today's video. We are not going to go through all of these. Like I said, this is just a part 1 video, and then hopefully in the other parts we are going to go through the rest in details. Alright, so we don't want to make this video a long one or just to waste time, so we'll just pause it here. Alright, so see you next time.